fishing, it's in my soul.
Welcome to the Salt Strong Podcast, disrupting fishing entertainment as you know it. Prepare to laugh. Prepare to get to know fishing legends in a whole new and unfiltered way. And on occasion, you might even learn a thing or two about fishing. Here's your host, Joe Simons. Like diamonds.
Popular sunscreens to never put on your body. Hey everybody, Joe Simons, Like Diamonds, back here again, Salt Strong Podcast. This is the time of year where the sun is getting hot, days are getting longer. It is time to put sun protection on, and it might not be sunscreen. In fact, I am going to share with you just in general things to watch out for that the average American, in fact, I'd say most Americans have no idea about. I had no idea until I personally got skin cancer, melanoma from the sun, and maybe even from some of the sunscreens I was using. So if you don't know my story, it was 28 years old. I was living in Atlanta, Georgia at the time. So I was born and raised in Florida, spent my whole life here. And, we spent a lot of time out in the water and the boats and going to the beach every summer. And the irony is I used sunscreen, obviously, as much as I could. There was a, short time frame there when I was a teenager and thought I was invincible and probably didn't use it as much as I should have. But in general, as an adult, I use sunscreen. I think what a lot of people also don't realize is, the sun damage that we get today a lot of times doesn't rear its ugly head for many years down the road. Meaning the sun damage that I got is probably a teenager, like the bad stuff. If you ever had, with blister and stuff, that's the stuff that can turn into legitimate skin cancer, a couple years or 10, 15 years down the road. And that's most certainly probably what happened with me. But I was 28 years old and I was working at this financial services company in Atlanta, and we were on our way home from an international flight. And that night before, it was kind of like the end of the trip party. We stayed up super late. All I wanted to do was sleep on this plane. And I had this stranger next to me on my right-hand side. And he's just chatting away as we're taking off. And I'm like, oh my gosh, all I want to do is sleep. And so I finally get like a book and, kind of in a nice way, give him a hint that I'm going to read and probably take a little nap here soon. And I noticed him looking down at my arm, like when you can kind of sense someone looking at you. And I was kind of looking over to my right, and I could see him kind of looking down at my right arm. And, I kind of look a little bit closer and he kind of catches me. He's like, hey, I was just looking at that mole on your arm. You need to get that checked out. And I was like, what are you, like a dermatologist or something? And he's like, no, we just had a lot of skin cancer in my family. And he's like, you need to get that checked out. And I was like, thanks. And you're probably wondering, what did it look like? Because I get that question a lot. It was a mole, just a normal mole that I'd had for quite some time. I don't know if it had been there my whole life. I doubt it, but I'd noticed it had been there for quite some time. It wasn't overly big or overly small. It's just a normal little mole that a lot of us get on our skin. It wasn't like ugly or grotesque. It wasn't like one that stuck out like a sore thumb. It was just a normal mole. At the time though, it did start to get a little bit like a darker red, like almost like I got sunburned, even though it had not been sunburned. I think I would have described it is like if I had accidentally just kind of like, bumped into a wall or something where it looked like a little bit just roughed up, if that makes sense. And so imagine just a little mole on my right arm, small, that just looked a little bit just kind of roughed up. And I just assumed that was the case. Oh yeah, it's just a little bit inflamed because I hit it on something. And get home the next day from this flight and don't think anything of it. And so I'm in the shower and I'm looking down, and this dude's, what he said to me about you need to get it checked out was just stuck in my head. I'm like, oh, I'll get it checked out. And I didn't do anything about it. Every day though, I keep seeing it and I'm like, all right, I got to get this checked out. Well, lo and behold, thank goodness, there was a dermatologist in the same office building I worked in Atlanta. So it was a multi-story building. We were on the second floor and there was a dermatologist on the third floor. So finally one day I'd seen it too many times and said, all right, I'm going to go upstairs on my lunch break and book an appointment. So I booked an appointment with the dermatologist and got in there. And even the doctor said, I don't think you have anything to worry about. It just looks like it's a little bit inflamed, but we'll take a biopsy and the next week we'll know. So I went back to life, like nothing had happened. It starts healing up, and until there was a day, and if you've ever been through this, and if you've ever heard this sentence that I'm about to share, you know exactly where you are. You remember the feelings, the emotions. It's something you don't forget. And I was personally on the phone, just doing my job, and I get a little knock on the door, or my cubicle, and I look over, and it's the nurse. And I don't remember if it was instantaneous or not, but it was really quick that my mind put two and two together. I'm like, all right, doctors don't have to see you face to face when they got good news. They just leave you a voicemail. And so I'm realizing that she's here for something not good. I didn't know what, but it wasn't good. And so I'm having like a full on like anxiety attack. I'm sweating, like just trying to get off the phone as quick as I can. And I finally get off. I take a deep breath, and I'm like, hey, like what's going on? And she's like, I don't know how to tell you this, but you've got cancer. Whoa. 28 years old. I'm single. Like all these thoughts are going through my head. Like, what does this mean? And in my first reaction was like, well, can't they just cut it out and just skin stuff, right? And she's like, no, like this is the real deal. This is melanoma. This is, we don't know the Clark's level. That's how deep it is yet, but it's deep, and you're gonna have to go to a full on surgeon in a hospital to see, where you are with this. And if it's past your lymph nodes and you're in the top of your arm, kind of your armpit, if it's past that, that means it's in your body. And so she's telling me all of this stuff. I'm like, I'm hearing chemo. I'm like, oh my gosh, what is going on? So you can imagine I'm absolutely freaked out. And that really started my journey with trying to understand the skin and the sun, and even good and bad sunscreens, or even the difference between sunscreen and sunblock. I'm guessing most people probably don't know the difference, that there are sunscreens that are chemical based, and some of these chemicals are actually toxic to our bodies that we're putting into our bodies. And then there's physical based stuff, the stuff that dermatologists recommend that don't have the dangerous chemicals and are actually fit what they would call more physical based sunblock. I had no idea there was even a difference. I just went with whatever I saw on the shelf, and I'm giving you this message really as a friendly warning, if you will, and really just as education. I'm going to let you make your own decisions. Obviously, I can't tell you what to do or what to avoid, but there are certain chemicals that if I were you as a person or a parent, etc., I would be investigating them, and I would be studying them very, very closely, because here's what I find very odd. And I'm not making any accusations here. This is my personal opinion. There's one thing that is true, is that skin cancer is at all-time highs. So more people right now are coming down with and being diagnosed with skin cancer than ever before. And I'm sure there's some conspiracy theories that, it's just people are going to dermatologists more often, or dermatologists trying to make money. Who knows? Doesn't matter. But either way, there are more people that are getting melanoma and getting skin cancer and things cut out than any time in the history of our country. And yet, sunscreen, these chemical-based sunscreens, are also at all-time highs, meaning this is a multi-billion-dollar industry. So now we have more sun protection than at any time in the history of our company, yet more people are becoming ill, if you will, right, with skin damage and skin cancer. Very, very odd. I mean, if you look at our great-great-great-grandparents who were out there in the fields and literally doing most jobs outside, now we're all inside. I don't know. It just seems very odd. And there is one chemical in particular, and I'm just going to kind of tell you what to look for, because you can't even pronounce half of them. But these are different sunscreen ingredients that are, I mean, in some cases, literally causing like very, very, very bad things. I mean, they're absolutely toxic. And some people, not me, but I have seen some people on other podcasts and even researchers who were saying that there's some of these ingredients that might even be causing cancer. And I'll leave it at that. But anything that ends in an ONE, like oxybenzone, or an ATE, or an ENE, is not good for your skin for the most part. There are a lot of different studies still going on with these. And you might be wondering, well, hey, how can they do it? I mean, how can companies still sell cigarettes, even though we know it's not great for us, right? I mean, heck, there was many decades where we did not know as a society that cigarettes could cause lung cancer. We think about that. There was a time that you could smoke on airplanes. You could smoke in front of kids in enclosed areas. We didn't know that cigarettes cause lung cancer. I'm willing to bet, this is my personal opinion, that there might be a day in the future where we look back and say, I can't believe we didn't realize that some of these, not all, but some of these chemicals and some of these sunscreens actually are causing cancer. Okay. So oxybenzone, I'm going to hammer that one first because that is the one probably most commonly found on the back of these sunscreens. Any of the big brands that you go, and I'm not picking on any one of these in particular. I'm just throwing out the names that you've seen, the copper tones and banana boats and bullfrogs and even Neutrogena, even some of the ones that, that are dermatologists recommended. Look on the back. And that's not to say they're all bad. I mean, Neutrogena, for instance, has some really amazing sunblocks that they do it the right way, but they also have some stuff, in my opinion, that I would never, ever use in a million years, knowing what I know now. I would never put it on my kids. Heck, I don't even allow it on my boat, especially if it's got oxybenzone. Now, Neutrogena, I'm just going to at least give them a little bit of an out here. I don't believe they have oxybenzone in their sunscreens, but they do have a lot of the other what could be considered toxic or not great chemicals in terms of their active ingredients. Those are the ones that end in ONE or ATE or ENE. So oxybenzone in particular, holy smokes, like once I tell you some of this stuff, you are going to start scratching your head saying, how are we allowed to even be using this stuff? How is this stuff even sold? So this does penetrate into the skin. I think a lot of people don't realize sunscreens, the stuff like that you're putting on your body, you're lubing up with or spraying on your body, it is getting into your bloodstream. It literally is acting like estrogen in the body. And it's crazy that oxybenzone has been detected in blood at levels 438 times higher than FDA's cutoff exposure rate. And it can remain there for like multiple weeks. And of course, even when you're peeing it out in the water, for instance, it is now getting into fish. And it has been proven that oxybenzone in particular can alter the sex of a fish, and obviously speeds it up because some species obviously do change, but it can literally have that effect on fish that don't change, and it absolutely speeds it up. Crazy. It has been linked to all kinds of negative things in women and even newborns, on the girls in particular. With adolescent boys, it is lowering the testosterone levels. It is hurting sperm levels big time. This is all proven stuff that you can go look up yourself. So, I mean, if you're one of these people who may be having an issue having kids on the sperm side of things, maybe it literally could be your sunscreen. I'm not saying it is, but it could be. It is absolutely crazy what it's doing with allergies. And it is absolutely destroying coral reefs. This is one of the main active ingredients that is proven to coral reefs, to the point like Hawaii, which obviously relies on tourism and their beautiful water and their reefs. They have banned any sunscreens that have this, right? Because they've scientifically proven that it is actually hurting and even killing the coral reefs. So why are we putting this in our body? I absolutely do not know. I personally, like I said, would not get anywhere near it. Now, the other ones, the I can't even pronounce them, octanoxate, and some of the avibenzones, and some of them, aren't as bad as others. If you're wondering what should you be looking at, well, always look at the active ingredients. That's really the thing that matters. So you turn the bottle around or the tube or whatever it is, and you look at the active ingredients. Okay. If anytime you see anything that's ending in ATE, ENE, or OZE, I personally would avoid it. And every dermatologist, I still have to go to a dermatologist every 6 months at a minimum. I lived in Texas and I had to go to him. I lived in Georgia. and I've obviously lived in Florida most of my life, and I've had to meet multiple dermatologists in all these different states, and 100% of them said the same thing I'm repeating: is I would never use anything in a million years on anyone I liked that had oxybenzone in it. It is toxic. I would stay away from it. What I would use, and this is the right thing to use, is anything that has and only has zinc, right? Zinc oxide or titanium dioxide. Anything that ends in the IDE is the good. So it's really those two active ingredients. And you'll see that in the the physical based, the non-chemical based sunblocks. And those are not seeping into your skin. Those are acting almost like an extra layer on top of your skin to block the harmful rays away from your body. It's almost acting just like a layer of apparel, like a sun protection shirt. So you're looking at things like that. If you want to know mine personally, I'm not paid to do this. I'm not sponsored. I could care less if you use this or not, but it is what I use. I'm going to look it up while I'm talking here real quick. But it's the Elta MD, and I will say Elta MD also has some bad ones, meaning they also have some of their sunscreens. They have 30 different versions that are not good, meaning that that do have some, at least in my opinion, some of the active ingredients that end in the ODE and stuff like that. So I'm using let me pull it up here. Oh gosh. There's one in particular that I use. Here it is. It's the Elta MD. That's the brand. UV Pure Broad Spectrum Sunscreen SPF 47. If you look on the back, that only has 2 ingredients. And it's the 2 I mentioned. It's the zinc oxide and titanium dioxide. That's the only 2 active ingredients. The bad news is, I'm just sure the bad news, which is why not everyone uses this, it's more expensive. This bottle will last you months. It's $32, versus spending $9 on, Banana Boat or Coppertone or whatever it is that you see in the store, or Bullfrog. It doesn't really matter. Yeah, 32 over 9 is a big difference, but how much is your life worth? How much is it worth not to have to get stuff cut out? How much is it worth not to have someone tell you, you've got cancer? I personally, I have trouble reading, and do some investigative work yourself, like I've done after I went through this, on some of the chemicals that are in some of these sunscreens. When you see all the studies that have been done, like I said, you will be wondering why the heck you ever put that not on your skin, but it is seeping into your body. This is stuff that has the power to actually take down your sperm count and is killing coral reefs. The same stuff that is killing coral, we're putting into our bodies. The same thing that has the power to actually transform and mutate some of these fish, we're putting into our bodies. I'm going to try to stick with the stuff that is not chemical based. You can do what you want. I would gladly pay an extra, $15, $20 per tube. It's not like that's only last you for a day. That's going to last you for quite some time. Now, and there's some out there that are even more expensive, and they have the, because I think the other negative is people don't like to look super pale and white. This stuff is kind of in the middle. I'll be honest. You will be a little bit white, but at the same point, man, you're going to be protecting your skin. And there's some that have the micro titanium dioxide, and there's some really cool mom and pop ones as well. I don't think you just have to look at the big names. There's some really cool mom and pop companies that have come out and really made some truly just great sunblocks that usually had a similar scenario where they went through some cancer with a family member, and they're like, you know what, I'm fed up with putting these chemicals on myself and my kids. I want to have something safe, and not just safe for people, but safe for the water and safe for the environment. And there's some really, really great ones coming out. So I'm not here to promote anyone. Like I said, I don't get paid. I'm not sponsored. I don't have any affiliate stuff with any of these. That's just one I use because it's priced well. I can always get it, and it works for a whole family. None of us have any allergies to it or anything like that. And to me, it doesn't make me that white. And ultimately, I haven't been burned on it. It is doing the job, and I feel like I'm protecting myself the way I should be. The other one is just obviously putting apparel on, putting long sleeve shirts, the hoodies, things like that. You obviously just can't beat it. So just wanted to share that with you. Like I said, I'm not trying to pick on any one particular brand per se, because it's not just a brand's fault. And there are some brands that have both chemical and physical, like Neutrogena, for instance, has some that I don't think are that great. They're more chemical based, and some that are fantastic. And are physical based versus the chemical. So just do your homework is really the moral of this entire podcast. Start looking at what is on the back. Same with our foods or anything, but this is stuff that, man, is so important and can have massive, massive effects on you and your family over the years in the sun. Check the back. Check the active ingredients. You want zinc and titanium dioxide. Zinc oxide and titanium dioxide. Those are the two active ingredients you want. And that is not just my opinion. That's coming from every dermatologist I've ever met with. And trust me, I pick their brains. I'm in there all the time. I've gotten to know a lot of them well. And they say the same thing. They're like, man, it's crazy. Some of these really big sunscreen companies, I mean, they're conglomerates that are owned by even bigger companies, and they have a lot of marketing power, and they have lobbyists. And I'm not to say they're all just bad or negative, and that they're horrible people, because they're not. But I do believe if for my family, and you care about what you're putting into your body and even into the environment, I would just be very careful to look what is on the back. And that one in particular, the oxybenzone, I mean, the fact that a state like Hawaii is even working on banning that completely out of their entire state, that should let you know that, hey, maybe we should be paying attention to this. And you can't always trust what you see out there. There's so many things that have slipped by, like cigarettes and other things that the FDA and other groups don't catch until years or decades later. This is your chance to do your own research and back up everything I'm saying. And if there's anything that I missed, because I'm certain I did, I'm not an expert, and these are all my personal opinions, not the opinions of Salt Strong or anybody else. This is just all the stuff I've personally investigated on the side after going through it and dealing with it all these years. I love your feedback. Like I said, I'm always trying to learn and always trying to know more about this. So if I missed something, or if you think I was off on a certain thing, I'd love to hear from you. Leave a comment down below. Otherwise, be safe out there, avoid the burn, and check the back of your sunscreens. Talk to you on the next episode.
'Cause fishing, it's in my soul, it was pain.